Alrighty, joining me now is an elite tight end out of the University of Utah, number 87 out of the Utah Utes, Thomas Yassmin. How are you, mate?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, that's good, mate. Good to see you. I appreciate you coming on. I know you've had an extremely busy day on the books, but we will get into that soon. I like to start off with asking the boys. A lot of the guys I interview are from America. Obviously, you are not. You are an Aussie, so I wanted to ask you about your time growing up in Australia. Where did you grow up exactly?
Yeah, so, pretty much most of my life I've grown up in Coogee.
Yep.
Yeah, since pretty much I was 8 years old. So, grew up in Coogee. Went to Scots College. Was pretty fortunate to go there. And, just been sort of that area most of my life.
So are you a beach bum then? Like, it's pretty decent beaches around there, isn't it?
Great beach. I wouldn't say beach bum in the sense of going out and surfing that, but I love to go to the beach, body surf, like go out for a swim and all that stuff. Yeah, definitely in that aspect.
There's just picturing the United States now. There's not many beaches in Utah, is there?
No. There's a lake that's about as salty as the Dead Sea. And yeah, that's about it. No, it's pretty. You're trading in the beaches for the mountains, the ski mountains, and
Yep. Are you a skier? Can you ski?
Not much of a skier. I'm a snowboarder. I've been snowboarded through boat parachute when I was back younger, and I've gone up here. I try and get here in the off season, so a little bit here and there. Nothing crazy.
I imagine that's good for the core and all the balance and all those kind of things. So you can play it off as a training session, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I try and pawn it off to the coaches as a training session, so they don't.
Beautiful.
But
I know if it's salty, it wouldn't freeze over, would it? The lake?
No, the Great Salt Lake doesn't freeze over. We have like little like in parks and that, but the Great Salt Lake.
I'm just picturing, is there any training sessions like JJ Watt when you're getting right in there, cutting ice out and getting the full body in there just to train the body for the hits?
No, we nothing like that. At least in the off-season, pretty, we're lucky we get to go on the heated indoor facility and sort of train in there. Like the worst part's running from the indoor to the other indoor. 15 seconds, that's about as intense as it gets with that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's all right. Well, we'll claim that as a hard session anyway.
Yeah.
Like you said, you got to go to Scots College in New South Wales, and you grew up playing rugby. But did you have a preference? Was it league or union that you preferred?
I think to watch it was league. I grew up watching league since I was a kid. But in terms of playing, I played union. Being in GPS school, it was always union. So I played union pretty much my whole life. A little bit of league. Maybe in year 10 or 11, but pretty much union. But watching was always league. I was a West Tigers fan.
Fair enough. So Robbie Farah and Benji Marshall and the likes?
Marshall, I think, 05 when they won the grand final.
Yeah.
That was when I hopped on the bandwagon. I've been a Tigers fan since then.
Do you keep up with it over there?
It's hard. My brothers give me a lot of hate about it. Like, I'll come back, see the NRL teams. I could probably recognise 3 names from a roster. It's just, it's a bit hard to follow. I try and stay in touch, but, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Benji Marshall is still going, I'm pretty sure, but he's been on about 6 different teams. Which position were you in Union then?
I was a wing. Always been a wing.
Okay.
Tried to move me second row. I think I was about 15, 16 when I started sort of taking rugby a bit more seriously, but I stuck it to the wing. I don't want to get my ears dirty and get the cauliflower ears. Mum wanted me to I played in the backs the whole time.
Yeah, but that kind of transfers a little bit to the tight end position, like a bit, you got to be elusive once you get the ball. And I did read an article that you were a pretty big kid growing up, so being a winger would have helped that, trying to run over a few people.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely. Once I get the ball in my hands, and like here in football, I think that's when my rugby sort of instincts take over. So it's helped me immensely with that. But pretty much, everything after the catch, but everything before the catch was kind of brand new.
Very brand new. Can you, as someone who's come from league or union, to the NFL, can you explain the differences of the ball? Like, the union ball is pretty fat, isn't it?
Yeah, Union ball, league ball especially, pretty fat. It's got the ribs on it, sticky. It's then with the pigskin, you got obviously the thick laces in the middle. It's the college ball. Pretty sure is a little fatter and a little shorter than the NFL ball, but it's still much smaller than a rugby ball, like a rugby union ball. Unless you got mitts for hands, you're not snagging it one-handed or anything. But
yeah, definitely.
So, but it's like easier and harder at the same time. Some things are a bit easier, but then like when that thing's coming at you like a rocket, it sort of bounces off your hands a little easier too. So you got to get used to that.
Yeah, softer hands. Do you wear gloves? Do they make a big difference?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's a game changer.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember the first time, I didn't wear gloves, my first practice, and everyone was kind of looking at me, especially playing tight end, I'm receiving, and I was I was making some catches and I dropped a couple balls, and I finally put on some gloves. It was night and day.
Yeah, right.
But it doesn't make everything. You still got to catch it yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. So you made the Barbarian All-Star team while you're at Scots College, and you got to play against Fiji in New Zealand. In New Zealand, sorry, or against New Zealand?
No, against New Zealand and Fiji. That was in Australia. In
Australia, okay. But how did that experience help you with moving over into the college system? Because I imagine that was a bit more of a camp and sticking together with a squad and playing against these different squads.
Yeah, it was good. It was it's very similar in terms of when you're at camp, you're very close knit with everyone. You're sort of seeing them every day. So that kind of helped me adjust to college football. You come in, you see these guys 8 hours, 9 hours a day. You live and breathe with them, but over an extended period of time. So, no, that sort of transition made it a little bit easier and sort of being in that more intense team environment than maybe just just your school team or even the state team or something. So, no, it definitely helped with that. Yeah,
beautiful. So, from what I read, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, 2018 was the year that you moved over to the States. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Summer of 18, American summer, so our winter.
Yeah. That's just trying to pick your mindset. That's a huge change and a huge decision to shift from Coogee in New South Wales over to the States. Where did that come from, and what got you into that idea?
Yeah, so how it started was I initially got recruited by a scout from University of Hawaii in Australia, and then that sort of got the things with the ball rolling. And at the time, honestly, they'd offered me. I didn't really know much about football. I'd watch NFL games or whatever occasionally, but wasn't big into it, and I just didn't really think much of it. But once that sort of happened, and speaking to some coaches and other people sort of asking questions, once I had that offer, so the ball got rolling, and I started speaking to other schools, so Utah and UCLA I was fortunate to speak to as well. So yeah, once that sort of happened, it was kind of real. It was this might actually be a real opportunity or a real option, to go over to America. At the time, I was also thinking potentially about playing rugby, when I was Rugby Union, the NRL, whatever. So it was, 17 at the time, I guess, is when I first heard about it, and then 18. It was a pretty big decision. I definitely had a lot of hesitations. Honestly, at first, I probably had a 20% chance I was going to come over. It wasn't really until sort of my parents and my brothers and my family and those around me sort of pushed me to maybe not just to move, but to explore the option a bit more. So, I took a visit here and really saw everything. And I remember I was kind of panicking the week leading up to when I had to let them know, and signing day and everything. I just kind of bit the bullet, and I haven't looked back since. It's been hard, but it's probably been the best decision I've ever made, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I love that you're it's a pretty big decision. Absolutely. You're moving your entire life. I'm presuming you went by yourself as well. From one side of the planet to the other. I imagine that's a pretty big decision.
Yeah, it was. And it was a pretty quick turnaround. I remember too. It was literally they offered me, then 2 weeks later I had to let them know. So it wasn't too much time to sit on it. After school, between almost starting university in Australia and everything. So yeah, it was. Did
obviously the football side of things came into it, but did what you were studying come into it as well?
Absolutely. So I was pretty big on my academics, and it was always a big focus for me, and always is. So that was definitely one of the deciding factors when I took my visit to Utah. I had a really great program for what I wanted to study, and sport isn't forever. Your education's always going to hold you. So I saw the programs here, met with professors, and saw the campus and everything. And I mean, it just seemed like the best fit between academics and obviously developing myself as a football player. It's never played, so I figured Utah was the best fit, and I mean, to this day, it has been.
Yeah, that was my next question as to why you picked Utah, but I feel like you've just knocked it on the head there.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I like it. But do you obviously enjoy the school side of things? I saw, was it in 2019 you got the academic award for, was it the Pac-12?
Yeah, Pac-12. Pac-12 academic. I love going to school, honestly. I kind of got sick of it in high school. I think it's more because it's more enforced. Here, you get to college, it's like, if you don't want to do the work, they're going to fail you. No one's going to be, on your behind about it and whatnot. But I chose something that I actually enjoyed, and I think the learning environment, just how it is, it's more suited, at least for me. I thought it was just a much more enjoyable experience, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. It's been awesome to be able to study for this long, and obviously, free education. Thankfully, it's just cool to be able to spend all my time, focusing on school and football.
So does that, from what I get out of it, is you have to drive yourself. They don't push you. So if you don't drive yourself, you're not getting to where you need to go. Is that right?
Yeah, college in general. I mean, look, the football team, we have football academic advisors, tell you, hey, you need to do this or something. You're sort of behind on this, but it's not like, it's definitely, a lot self-driven. Like, you're going to have all the support if you want it. If you need the support, I'll make sure you get that, and they're really good about that, which is awesome. So it really teaches you sort of like, you need to take that initiative yourself. No one's going to just do it for you. They'll help you on the way, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to you. And
Yeah, beautiful. What we'll step away from the football side of things. What are you studying? And like I said, don't worry about the football. If study is the way forward, where's it going to lead you in life? Where does Thomas Yassmin go with his studies?
Yeah, so my undergrad was, I did a double degree in math with emphasis on statistics, and QAMO, which is a program they had here, which is a lot of the reason why I came here. It stands for Quantitative Analysis, Markets and Organisation. So it's basically like a fancy way of saying economics with a bit more math. Sounds a lot cooler when you say that. But
absolutely. QAMO, it's grass.
So my undergrad was in that and math. And I just always loved math. I did 4 years in high school. It was just something I understood, and just always I enjoyed learning more of. So I'm now, since I'm here for next year, I'm now doing my postgrad masters in math, emphasis on statistics as well. So with that, I mean, I'd like to get into data science or data analytics, something along that line. It's hard with football. You can't do internships like a lot of other college students. So the way I try and make up for it is sort of make the most of it and learn and try and get as many qualifications just through college as I can. So I think that route, ultimately, football's not forever, sport's not forever. So I think that's sort of the avenue I'd like to go.
Beautiful. What, like you said before, you've come from a union and league background. Getting over there, your first practice, did you put the pads on before your first practice, or
no?
Was that chucking them on? What's it like for the first time going, holy shit, like, is it restrictive compared to what you used to, or is it... What?
I'll never forget my first practice. There was multiple things. First thing was first, I had no idea how to put them on. I was putting pads on, tried to put my jersey on, and I very quickly found out that's not the way to do it. You got to put the pads in the jersey, then you got to sort of wheeze your way through it, and sometimes you got to get your teammate to pull them down from behind and all that. So that took me about, what now takes about 30 seconds, about 15 minutes the first time. And then my first practice, first padded practice, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I thought I had a 5 pound, 10 kilo plate on my head. trying to turn. My neck was killing me after because I wasn't used to running with like, even though it's only a few pounds, like you're running and you're moving your head. It's after, I remember the next day I thought I broke my neck.
Yeah.
And then the first day though, paddle practice, we did contact for the first time and I was running a route. And, you know, I didn't know anything about anything. So the coach just tells me, he's like, all right, line up here, just run a quick slant, 3 steps, sort of go on field. So I'm running it, I look inside, quarterback's not throwing it to me, so I'm like, all right, whatever. Just running, not keeping my head on the swivel, linebacker, senior, comes through the middle, just pops me, absolutely decleats me. And I just felt like a sack of potatoes. So that was my first, that was like my wake up. That was like, welcome to football. So that was awesome. My first day in pads. It didn't hurt too bad as much as it shocked me, but yeah, like you get the freeze frame. My feet and body are just horizontal. First day in pads. It was pretty awesome.
So you felt a hit from a linebacker, senior linebacker, who's just gone, you know what, this junior tight end doesn't know what's coming.
Yeah,
I'm presuming you felt one on the Union field as well. Maybe just striding down the sideline as a winger. What's hurt more? Like, do the pads make a big difference?
Oh yeah, I would say definitely at the point of impact, I would say on average, definitely high impact in football. But I mean, if you've taken a big hit from football and you take a big hit from football from rugby, unless barring any head stuff, I would say if a hit in rugby probably hurts a little more. The pads really. Like, you'll see massive guys, like, just running to each other and they pop back up. It looks like it absorbs a lot. And, as dangerous as it still is, like, you can get those freak hits. I'd say for the vast majority, it's just like, it's pretty, like, you hit someone, you get back up, you don't feel it as much. It's not too bad.
I reckon there's a lot of Aussies that'll hear that and go, do you know what? We're tougher than those Americans.
They all say that, man. And then even the guys here have said to me, it's like, oh, I bet this is nothing come from rugby. I mean, it's still high impact, but no, definitely.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm happy with that. Leave it with the Aussies are tougher than the Americans.
Yeah.
You said, and the fact that you're joining me now, it's quite late for you, and you got to do a fair bit of study, especially when a maths major. What does a typical day, I know you're in off-season now, but what's a typical off-season day and then like in-season as well? With training and all the sorts as well?
Yeah, so, I mean, today was a Sunday, so I just kind of did like my own training session in the morning. Then I had a couple of assignments due, so I went to the library just for some extra study most of the day today. But off-season, like a normal training day, for instance, tomorrow, get up at 5:30. I have a team lift at 6:30 a.m. Got to be there at 6:15. That's team conditioning. So we do our conditioning in the morning. It's about an hour and a half. Get done, shower, have breakfast there. And then on a Monday, I've got a couple classes. So I'm in classes for about 3 hours. As soon as those finish, it's usually about 12:30. I'll quickly head back to the facility, get some treatment. If you're playing football, everyone's in the treatment room, whether it's tight hamstring or torn something. Like there's always half the team at least in there most of the day. So I'll head in there, get some treatment, and then we'll have a team lift at 2:00. That's about an hour, and then we'll have position meetings. So it's about 45 to an hour of film, and then a lot of times on Mondays and Wednesdays or on our off days, we'll get some extras where we just go run and throw with the QBs and the players. So, that brings you about 5, 6, 7 p.m., 6 p.m., and then it's pretty much dinner and sort of got the evening off.
Is that the same in in season as well? I imagine a bit different with off-season and stuff.
So that will be our schedule, sort of Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is kind of like that. We've got off days Tuesday, Thursdays, and the weekends. But in season, I mean, you got about 6 hours off a week. It's pretty full on. Whether you're full time with school or, when you're in season, you're playing guys every week. You got to do film every day. We're pretty much at the football facility every single morning, and then from at least 1 o'clock to 7, 8 p.m. every single day. And then game days is basically a 72-hour ordeal. The 24 hours before, the 24 hours of game day, and then after, and traveling and everything, and then before you know it, it's Sunday evening and you got to get up early on a Monday morning. So the season's pretty hectic.
So 2 questions I've got out of that. Obviously, we've spoken to a couple of college players before. It was mainly punters, so I've never really spoken to a skilled position like yourself. What kind of film are you actually watching? Like, how much are you putting in being the tight end? Are you watching the defense and what they're coming towards you, or are you watching yourself and being like, shit, that was a 4-step instead of a 3-step. I got to be better here.
So, for instance, they will have practice. Pre-practice is usually watching opponent film, especially at the beginning of the week, sort of getting to know our opponent for that week, their heights, their measurables, their habits, what techniques they like to use, what defensive fronts. And that's, continuous throughout the whole week, pretty much leading up until the whistle goes off on game day. So you're always sort of doing that. And then after we've had our first practice session of the week, pretty much every day after that, you're watching the previous day's practice as well. So making corrections to what you did in practice. Like you said, if you misstep on something or your hands weren't inside enough and technique stuff. So it's definitely a mix. In season, it's more so watching opponent film because it's such a quick turnaround. You got 5 days to watch, 7 games worth of their film, or say you're towards the end of the season, you're watching through 1,000 of their plays. And, the further you get in the season, the more film you have on that opponent based off their previous week. So it's usually mostly, I'd say about 70-30 opponent to self-film in season. And then off season, it's pretty much purely all your own film and just sort of drilling technique and everything.
Yep. Do you get to, like you said, 72 hours, it's, game day pretty much. Do you get to follow the NFL much?
Yeah, as much as you would think was around football so much, the last thing you'd want to do is watch more football. But honestly, sometimes like you're cooked on a Sunday and your body you just want to sit on the couch and chuck on the NFL. So honestly, everyone follows the NFL pretty closely. So it's pretty. I've definitely watched it. Obviously since moving to America, I follow a lot more. But even the past 2 years, the more I understand about football and sort of enjoying it, it makes it actually easier to watch NFL. And it's kind of cool watching the NFL now that you actually know what's going on. Like I can sort of look at it and, have an idea of what's going on. So it makes it more interesting to watch, definitely.
Do you have a team?
I've always been, it's funny because in a Super Bowl, everyone's going to say, I have been an Eagles fan, I promise. We had a good family friend. Their family was from Philadelphia. They came to my school in 2012, 2013, and that was the first time I actually got introduced to NFL. They bought me a Philadelphia Eagles jersey, and I played my first game of Madden. I think it was Madden 08 with Donovan McNabb, the quarterback. And since then, I've just been a Philly fan subconsciously.
We've got a few Aussies in there, so it's all right. We can back them at least for this week, anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll be my Lada fan this weekend, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. But like you said, do you watch it now? If you're just like, what, I'm just going to sit back and watch, and like we'll go for the weekend. For example, you got Travis Kelce, who's probably one of, if not the best tight end going around at the moment. Are you watching him and being like, oh, shit, he broke out there, he was on, you probably should have hit him, or, Patrick Mahomes probably hits him 9 times out of 10 anyway. But are you watching and thinking, yeah, that's the route he was running, or?
Yeah, definitely. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, all those guys, they're the best in the league at what they do. So, if I'm watching them playing, I try and at least see what they're doing, and when they get open, kind of look at okay, what? Because football's not robotic. You can't just look at an image of a route and go run that route. You got to add some character. You got to add some flair. Shake and bake. And so I look at what they do, and those guys have so much swagger when they play, and they're just it's little things they do that Travis Kelce. Don't get me wrong, he's an unbelievable athlete, but he's definitely not as athletic as some of these elite corners in the NFL. But he's still getting separation from these guys. So it's cool to watch what he does and try and see how he does it and these other methods he uses his body to get away. And I try and, hopefully learn from that and implement it myself.
You mentioned before you get in the weight room as a unit. Is that just are you in there as a tight end, or is it a whole team kind of lift?
It's split into groups. So we call them skills, bigs, and giants. So giants is O-line, D-line, the big boppers. Mostly it's where you get all the big Islander boys. And then the bigs, which is tight ends, linebackers, running backs, and then the skills, which is like receivers, QBs, corners, safeties. So our bigs lift is the linebackers, running backs, and tight ends, and then within that lift you have your group. So I lift with the other tight ends. The linebackers lift together, the running backs lift together.
Well, that kind of ruins the question that I was going to ask, because I was going to say there wouldn't be too many. It's got you listed at 5'6", not 5'6", 5'6", and 250 pounds. So you're lifting a fair bit of weight.
Yep.
There wouldn't be too many weight rooms that you're going in and looking at the linebackers. The lines, the offensive, defensive line, and going, shit, they're lifting a lot bigger than I am.
Actually, I'll have to send you a photo. I've got the heaviest squat on the team.
Hey, there we go. At what? What are we squatting?
I'll go do the calculation because it is in pounds.
I'll put it in pounds. It's what, 2.2?
Yeah,
we'll do it rough.
So my heaviest squat was 570. So divided by 2.2, that's
240, 235, something like that?
259, almost.
Oh, even bigger. Jesus.
So, it's pretty cool. You walk in there, it's got my photo, it's got squat, 570, Thomas Yassmin.
Absolutely. Represent. Do they all get around you when you're doing that lift, like you see in the videos?
It's unreal. Like I said it to my brother, because my oldest brother, Christian, we love training together when we get home, and you will lift them. You can lift a house when you're training in front of these guys. When he gets to the final set, you're doing your warm-ups on testing day, and when you're up there, you're usually the last person to go, so everyone's already done theirs, and you got about 50, 60 guys around you, and the music's blaring, you got the whistles going from the coaches, everyone's banging on the rack, screaming. I mean, the amount of adrenaline in your body. I remember the first time I had testing day, I basically blacked out after, racked the weight, almost collapsed. Like, if I was on my own, there's no way I would be getting that up. But you got those boys cheering you on, you got supporters, everything. You can lift like no other.
Yeah, grass.
I will say some of those guys bench ridiculous. My squat's disproportionately strong. My bench is horrible compared to, you got these guys throwing up 4 or 5 plates on the bench. I'm barely struggling to hit 3. You got some big boys on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll jump into. So I wanted to kind of put it out there. We're going to throw some numbers at you from your last year in a second, but you've kind of gone from strength to strength each year. Well, from what I've read anyway, I don't know how you feel. Like, you might have felt a little bit different, but I reckon you've gone from strength to strength, especially coming from, probably not even touching a ball, no pigskin whatsoever.
Yep.
Your first year, you got to play in 11 games, but only 4 of them on the offense. Is that right?
Yeah, and even then, it's kind of towards the end of the game, you're already up. The coach is chucking you in just to get you some game time, just to give you that experience. Give
you the experience, yeah. So you're literally junior boy. You're just getting started. The next year, 2020, COVID-affected year, only played 5 games, and only a couple of those you got on the offense. So you're playing special teams most games, is that right?
Yeah, so since 2019, my freshman year, I've been special teams specialist. I've been pretty much every special team since then. Even last year, starting, I've always been because I guess it's the least technical, obviously. Kick off, you run down there, you hit someone, you go get the ball. So I had enough athleticism where I could just use that and be a good special teams player, and I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but I was pretty much it. It was just special teams for a couple of years. 2020, definitely, yep.
I imagine you had the tackling part down, Pat.
Yeah. I was. I remember my first tackle was actually my first ever college game was against BYU, which is our rivalry game. Season opener 2019 was the second kickoff. The first kickoff I actually got blasted. I was running down, then see a guy coming, blindsided me, cleared me. I'm like, oh, all right, this is now.
We're in. Here we go. Yeah.
Nerves out. Here we are. Second one, ran down, went past the guy, smacked the guy on our 10-yard line. Then we ended up getting a pick 6 literally the next play by the defense. That was my first, this is awesome kind of moment in college. So that was cool.
I followed the Utes a little bit, but what kind of crowds are you getting at home?
Mm-hmm. So we sold out every game. we just expanded the seats last year or 2 years ago was our first year since expanding it. So now, like, we average about last season, like 55,000 home game.
Yeah, wow.
55,000. So that's capacity for us. But, play at other stadiums. I think the biggest stadium, honestly, was probably the Rose Bowl, which is about 95,000 people.
Yeah, we'll get to the Rose Bowl. Don't worry about that. So then you played 5 games in 2020. What was the COVID year like, especially being in college? Like, is it just everyone staying apart, all computers and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was, God, it feels like a fever dream, honestly. I remember, so we got sent back home. I was actually on spring break in California. We got sent home to Australia, and then, they called us basically saying in 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they're like, hey, everyone's got to report back in a couple of weeks. We're starting training. Everything was still shut down in Utah, but if there's a way around it, football's going to make it happen. Football never stops. And so I ended up only going home during COVID, probably about just under 2 months. Came back to Utah and had nowhere to live, so I was staying on campus, and there was no one on campus. The only people on campus were football players. Staff weren't there. No one was there. It was just us, and we're doing team workouts where it was one person per rack. There was all these split groups, so that we could do. You had to wear masks. When we wore helmets, we had to have masks under the helmets. It was like breathing with a plastic bag in your head. That 2020 season was horrible. And then, you get to the season. Our preseason camp was elongated by a few weeks, so we basically did a 6-week preseason camp, which was just miserable. And then, you're training that whole week, and you find out 24 hours before the game's cancelled. So you train that whole week, and it's just like, game's cancelled, you're doing nothing. Come back in the next week. Same thing, game ends up getting cancelled. And, out of the 10 games you have in season, 12 games, we only ended up getting 5. And it was mentally, it was a very tough season, I think, for a lot of people. They just kind of, like, as much as you love football, when it's sort of like that and you just day-to-day like that, it was kind of just, kind of really throws you off a little bit and sort of mentally makes it a lot harder. I'm presuming physically it would have been worse off for you, not getting the reps in there, but were you able to mentally, I'm presuming you had nothing but time, so you could get yourself into the books, learn your routes and what you're supposed to do. Did you at least able to get, head around some of the routes and things like that? Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people learn differently. I mean, for me, as much as I could learn, reading and seeing and watching, I mean, the best way I learn is by doing things. So, I mean, not having that aspect, like, as much as you could learn theoretically and mentally, I mean, until you're thrown out there and you're doing it in a split second kind of decision situations, it was sort of hard for me to actually not have that and not be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was trying to get at before is to explain to people the difference to the tight end position from a wide receiver. Yeah, I'm imagining in the first 4 games that you're playing and the 5 games that you're doing a lot of blocking. You're going out there and not being the first. You're not the first read. The wide receivers are going to be the first read, or give it off to the running back. So you're 3rd, 4th, 5th in the progression. So the fact that 2021 comes around, you're into your 3rd season, and you get your first reception against Weber State. How good of a feeling was that for you?
Yeah, I remember. Weber State opening game, and first reception. It's crazy. I remember, like, coming off on the sideline, like, not even remembering I caught the ball. Like, I mean, it was a 6-yard catch.
6 yards, yeah.
There is 6 yards, but I came off on the sideline. I was just like, I think it really was. It was just like a little milestone. And I think it was something that I needed, like, mentally. Basically not touching the ball in a game situation for how many years, and you've put so much effort and hard work into it. It's just that, I think that little thing sort of kept me going, sort of allowed me to keep going throughout that season. Because I mean, I know with Dalton and Brandt in front of you, and sort of these guys being in front of you for a long time, and sort of not getting that chance, it's hard to just keep going, and especially something that you've given up so much for. So I think that catch, to a lot of people, see it as a 6-yard catch, but it was a lot bigger for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I reckon in the past 5 to 10 years, the tight end position has definitely changed. Like you said, Kittle, Kelsey, Dalton Schultz, the boys like that there. We did have the outliers in the past that were big catchers and runners, but, typically a tight end's a blocker first and then a catcher second, a receiver second. So to go from one catch of 6 yards to listen to some of these stats for you last year, 6 touchdowns, 5 of them in the final 6 games. You had a career high 81 receiving touchdown on 2 catches. 81 receiving yards on 2 catches against the USC. One of them was a 60-yard touchdown. You had a career-long 72-yard touchdown against Arizona State. A 41-yard touchdown against Colorado. You scored in, as you said before, the Rose Bowl, which probably don't get the grand size of it now. Like, Rose Bowl back in the day is enormous. And still getting 95,000 people there to have a touchdown in that game. And then you just finish off with 6 special team tackles for the year as well. Like you said, you're still part of the special team. Yeah, to go from that to there, that's huge.
They still. Sorry, what was that last bit?
So, to go from 1 reception to, was it 13 or 14 for 300 yards for the year? That's an enormous jump.
Yeah, it was. I always say it. Everyone says, but I wish it was under different circumstances. Obviously Grant being injured, and that guy's one of my best friends since freshman year, and Dalton being limited with sort of not be, taking that much workload and sort of being a seasoned veteran. To get my opportunity one way or another, and to be able to make the most of it and capitalize on it, it was something I felt like I had to do. Just for me personally, I knew I could do it, but it's hard just mentally. When you go on season by season, sort of riding the bench, and so I think sort of to finally go out there and show everyone sort of what I could do with the ball in my hand, and it was it was memorable for me. I mean, it was probably the most enjoyable 2 months I've had to date.
So I think it was only 1 yard, the touchdown in the Rose Bowl, but it still counts. 95,000 people erupt. What's that feeling like?
It was obviously it was early in the game when things were a lot closer. It was to tie up the game at the time, and I just remember seeing the ball. I'm like, I knew it was coming to me as soon as I released off the line back a bit for it. I knew it was coming to me, so I'm looking, freaking. I'm like, shit, don't drop it. Eye on the ball. I'm like, don't bang. Caught it. They had to review it because they thought I dropped it on the way down, but I held on to it, and I just remember getting up. I didn't know what to do for celebration. I just brushed off my shirt like, I'm that guy. I was having the time of my life, and I'm like walking on the sideline, and I always like whenever I score, especially I'm not used to it. It's my first time like sort of getting exposure like this, and I'm on the sideline, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, I'm just like I can't hear anything around me. Like I'm like it's not until like a few minutes I'm like sitting down the sideline, I'm getting a drink of water, and I'm like looking around, people still cheering. I'm like, oh, this is like really happening. Like this is. It's a feeling like I've never had before. It's unreal.
Well, to put it into perspective, like 95,000, that's an AFL grand final kind of crowd, NRL grand final, probably nearly double what an NRL grand final is getting, I'm presuming the stadium, the Rose Bowl, like that'd be shaking almost, wouldn't it?
Oh, it's deafening in there, especially because it's a bowl, so like all that sound's kind of trapped in, and you got the fireworks going off. You got the bench right behind, like the Utah section right behind your bench, and they're going crazy, and the marching band and the horn. It's like something out of a movie. It's unreal. It's awesome.
So obviously, taking your chances is kind of part of it. But what do you put down to such a big progression for that season from 1 yard, 1 touchdown, 1 reception to 6 touchdowns and over 300 yards?
Sorry, what do you like?
Well, so can you accredit it to anything in particular? Did you go last off season in like really? Yep. I need to work on this. I need to work on this. Is it your what did you put it down to? You reckon?
I think my brothers always tell. I think everyone on the team. I love sort of like lifting, and like I love working out. I love always just like getting as physically athletic as I can. My philosophy was always, obviously these guys have a lot more skills than me. They've been playing the game their whole life, so whatever I can do from the physical aspect to try and counterbalance. And I think this off season, I really got to the point where I'm like, no matter what I do, fast, strong, whatever I can get, I'm going to have to know all these things and sort of these nuances. And so that off season was definitely. It was really big for me. And I read the previous off-season, I happened to be out leading up to the 2021 season. I was out with a back injury, so, I missed that, which was sort of a vital role in my development. And so I really treated this off-season as basically, at the time, it was going to be my last one. And so I sort of took that really on board and tried to focus as much just like on the theory side of football and really getting it down pat. And I kind of had I had a chip on my shoulder, definitely. I was, I just want to prove everyone, I've come this far, and to not really be able to, at the time, do what I've sort of always wanted to do. I just had a real chip on my shoulder, and I just, put my head down. I was really, just really out to make a name for myself. And I said I wanted to do it. And, the opportunities came from different circumstances, but yeah, I felt like I made the most of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You said before you've recommitted to the Utes for 2023. You've got, I think it was the Florida Gators week 1. Would you?
Yeah.
It's late August, I believe.
Yes. Either the 31st or September 2nd.
Yeah, September 2nd, yeah. Well, so what are the hopes this year going forward? What can we expect?
Last year I feel like was just sort of giving to people like a taste of what I could do, and I'm going into the off season sort of the same as last year in the sense that nothing's for granted. Absolutely, if anything, now that sort of a target's on my head, I've got to work harder. So definitely really cracking in more into that theory side of football and understanding it more to sort of help my game better mentally. So definitely that, and I came back for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I want to give myself a better chance to go to the NFL, and I felt like last year was maybe just giving them a glimpse, and I need to be able to do that for a full season. So that was definitely the main one. And also, too, everyone wants to win a bowl game, and we've gone to the Rose Bowl twice as a team and lost both times. If I can go out there and win one of historically the biggest college football games too, and give myself sort of a Cinderella ending leading to hopefully a career, it would be a pretty awesome opportunity.
Are you a goal setter, or are you a week-to-week kind of guy?
I would say goal setter. Definitely. Yeah. I'm pretty, ask anyone who knows me, I'm very, to a fault, to structured. If something doesn't go this way, then I can kind of crumble sometimes. So, yeah, I'm pretty goal-driven and like to have structure and all this stuff and like things going to plan. So, obviously, my football career didn't really go to plan, but it's worked out okay now. So, but definitely a goal-driven person.
So, are you the kind of? Do you have certain goals that you break records this year, do this, do that, or is it just we'll take the year as it comes? I
don't like to say them, but for instance, last year I had a goal before the season, and this was before all the stuff happened, and so my goal last year was 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. I wrote that in the off season. Fortunately, I didn't get the 500 yards, but 5 touchdowns. And if I'm being honest, I got more than probably I would have anticipated realistically. That was kind of a shot in the dark, but no, I definitely have my goals for this year, and the obvious one is to be an NFL player and make the draft. So that's one, but yeah, I sort of know what I'm aiming for, and yeah,
beautiful. We got 5 in the last 6 games, so I feel like you've ticked off the touchdowns at least. If you averaged, what was it, 23 and a half yards per catch, you're going to get the 500 pretty comfortably if you keep getting targets.
Yard reception really threw off the stats.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So what do you reckon it would have been? It would have been higher, almost the 30s, wouldn't it?
I think it was, because Washington State, I had 3 catches for 11 yards.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, and that one was, 1 reception for 1 yard. So prior to that, the average was 43 or 39 point something. But I'll take the catches. The receptions are just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all padding the stats. That's all we're padding the stats. Have you thought about, like the future too much, or is that getting a bit too far ahead of yourself? Or like, because if you go through this year and go well, then it's pretty quick straight into the combine, from what I understand.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, I don't like to go too far ahead. I got to get through the season first, but ideally, have a good season, and if everything goes to plan, yeah, pretty much you finish that last game of the season, and then a lot of the guys are pretty much flying to wherever they're going to be spending the next 3 months training for that combine. So it's a quick turnaround. I remember, a few of the boys, my best mate, Dalton Kincaid, who's probably should be the first tight end taken in this draft. Remember after that bowl game, he pretty much flew to, I think it was California, he's training in right now, and he's been training there since leading up to the combine. So, yeah, it's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, so I feel like you're going to have to, you need to have that kind of stuff in place well before it's happening. So, yep. Although you don't want to think about it, you kind of have to start thinking about it, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, a lot of guys sort of start solidifying that stuff, towards the end of the season, that last quarter of the season, when you sort of got a better estimate of where you are relative to a lot of things. So I think once it gets to that point, that's when I start really making the decision. But till then, it's just preparing for that first game and trying to stay as healthy as possible and mentally ready.
Maybe up those squat numbers.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get under the bar that much again. I haven't hit it since. I've been close, but I'm scared I don't want to push it too much. Sometimes I can let my ego get ahead of me in the weight room. So my coaches have been pretty restrictive of me. They let me get it at the time, and then they're kind of like, all right, we don't need to push it that much. So we'll see. But, yeah. I
watched a video of Jalen Hurts doing 600 today, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, that guy's a house. I don't know if as much as I'd love to, it might probably have to be after football. But, squat 600 pounds in high school, that guy's... He's one of the craziest athletes I've seen. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a reason he's scoring 15 rushing touchdowns, I reckon.
Yeah, he's literally running back that can throw the ball.
I've got one more question. It'll probably lead into one or two, but I just want to thank you for being so generous with your time. It is late over there for yourself, so I really do. And I can tell you've made a fan out of me, and I've got a fair few helmets. I reckon I might have to have a Utah helmet soon.
I might have to send you a Utah helmet your way, get you one ready.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be prime, right up there next to me, Aaron Rodgers, I reckon.
Yeah, that's awesome.
With the NFL being, like, realistically, it's a real possibility at the moment, especially every year, that you keep going with the trajectory that you're going. Do you ever see a return back to Australia?
I think when it's all said and done, I mean, guys have asked me on the team, I'm going to live in Australia. It's the greatest country on earth. I sound like an American talking about America, but there's no place like home. I've always loved Australia, and as much as I love America, I'm grateful to live here, and it's awesome to be able to travel around and see everything. Home's always going to be home, so I think when it's all said and done, I'll be there.
Do you obviously you got the 2 months during COVID, but do you actually get to come home much?
We get breaks, here and there. We get like weeks off and 8 days and whatever. But spend a couple grand on a ticket, go back and forth, and say hi for 3 days and come back. You're not doing that multiple times a year. So we get one break. It's our long break in May. We usually get about 3.5 weeks off. So that's always the time when I come home. But during COVID, I wasn't able to come home for 2.5 years, and so last time I'd been home was May 21. Or 22, I guess, sorry. And then prior to that was 2020. So I'll be back home this May again for a few weeks. But, yeah, it's hard seeing your family only once a year for a few weeks. It goes quick, but you get used to it. I've been in college for 4 years now, so you're kind of used to that whole – you get past it after the first one.
I reckon at least they can Utah gets a fair run on ESPN over here, so they can at least watch you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Especially, our team in general has just been – on the uptrend since 2018, our class. So it's good. They're getting a lot more coverage now, deservingly. And so it's awesome they get to watch the game. Sometimes I have to wake up at 4 a.m., but most of the time, the night game, it's 11 a.m., so it's kind of nice. They get to watch me with some brekkie in the morning. But, yeah, it's cool.
Beautiful. All right, mate. Well, I'll let you get off to bed so you can get up at 5:30 in the morning. But When you come back in May, I'll make sure I make a trip up to Coogee. It'll be nice and to get in the ocean up there with you.
Absolutely. Good to do it.
Nah, appreciate it, mate. And good luck for everything going forward. And we'll keep in touch anyway.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate.
Good man. Beautiful. Easy as that.